Coach, you've been through a few senior days.
Yeah.
To go through that one like that, and how rewarding was that for these guys?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, number one, we had a lot of guys, and I kind of talked about this earlier, and a lot of guys that kind of got here different ways. And that's what's interesting about college football now, is it's just, you don't have that many guys that go someplace and stay their whole career, and there was a number of players that have done that, and then we also had some guys that we were able to add last year, and some walk-ons that have been really significant contributors. So for me, it was really rewarding just to see those guys that have been in this program for a long time, the players I talked about before, be able to go out and to play well on Saturday and to win. And I think you got to give our guys a ton of credit. The last 2 years have been a lot. You know what I mean? I mean, you think about what these guys have been through. A coaching change is hard on players, just because you wake up one day and, sometimes a coach you chose the school for isn't there anymore. These relationships you have with these people and this trust and all these things kind of go out the window, and all of a sudden it's a brand new group of people and challenges in front of you, and so it can be difficult, and just incredibly rewarding for those guys to kind of weather that storm, to have the success that we had last year, which in itself was quite a burden for a lot of those guys to carry. I mean, it's just hard, to go through that the first time, and it was a long grind, and it was a lot of pressure, and it was hard, just hard on guys. And so for them to go through that, and then to deal with some of the disappointment that we've had this year and losing as many games as we had, basically on the last possession of the game, it's been hard. I mean, it's been a challenging couple of years, and just really proud of those guys for having a great mindset, for playing as hard as they have and practicing as hard as they have and being good teammates, and dealing with all the success and all the failure and all the stuff in between, and just really proud of who they are and the way that they represent this university, and to go out there and to play well on Saturday when it's probably easy not to. And so just really proud of them for fighting their tail off, and I think it shows a lot about who they are as individuals, and hopefully about where we are as a program. And again, I know everybody's disappointed it hadn't gone the way we wanted it to, but that's college football. This stuff doesn't happen. I mean, you don't show up, sprinkle fairy dust, and all your problems are gone. I mean, it's just not the way it works. And so it's a grind, and but I'm really proud of those guys for having that kind of mentality and that mindset, and just, being a good teammate. I think that at the end of the day, that's probably the biggest lesson, hopefully, that these guys learn through all of this is, how do you become a good teammate? And that makes you a good employee someday, hopefully a good boss someday, hopefully a good husband someday, and hopefully an even better father someday. And I think that we're lucky to get to work in this setting, because we get to see it every day. And those players get to see guys in this room that are great teammates, and guys that are learning how to be great teammates. And, and I think it helps them when they have kids someday, and they have to make sacrifices, and they have to do things that they don't necessarily want to do because they feel like it's the right thing to do. And so that's the great lesson that these guys learn, man. And I think that's why so many of these guys in this room here every day are going to be really, really successful, is because those are the lessons they learn.
With Kendall and Jeff coming from the same coaching tree, I'm curious, how similar are the offenses?
Yeah, very similar. Yeah, very similar offenses. I would imagine, if we got their call sheet, most of our guys would probably know the plays. I think that they're similar. I mean, they're obviously different. I think what happens as coaches is when you have a background, we all come from somewhere, and like I had the air raid background, and then you go places and you add a little something to it and a little something to it, and you have success, or you don't have as much success, and you adapt a little bit more, and then you go to a certain school and you build that offense or defense around those players. And so it comes from the same place for sure. It's very similar. Again, I think that we're, if I'm not mistaken, I think we're 14th or 13th in the country in total offense, and I think they're in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken. I think Oklahoma's maybe 8th in offense. So, I mean, both offenses have been very successful, you know, in terms of being able to move the football. Now, you know, again, ours, and I'm sure they would say the same thing. I mean, you know, those offenses are designed to, most importantly, to give you a chance to win. And I think that's the whole thing. And you know, they have a senior quarterback that's got 50 plus starts, and you know, we have a young quarterback and who is really growing fast, and I'm really proud of what he's doing and how much he's improving. And so all those are kind of factors in winning and losing football games.
Are you guys prepping for 2 quarterbacks, Coach?
Yeah, I think we'll have to. Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, hard to know exactly who we're going to see. We'll prep for 2, yeah, definitely we'll have to do that.
Have you learned much from watching Jackson Arnold? I mean, he hasn't had a lot of.
Yeah, it doesn't have a huge sample size. I think he's played in 5 games, if I'm not mistaken, and so there's enough there to kind of have an idea what they're comfortable doing with him and what he likes to do and what he's comfortable with. So that gives you a little bit of a starting point.
They brought in a lot of guys from the transfer portal. They've seen improvement. What have you seen from their defense this season compared to last season?
I think just an understanding of the scheme. You know, last year I think that they were learning. This year they're just much further along. I mean, I think there's more talent. I think the guys, you know, there's more people. I think they have more depth, more competition, all that type of thing. But I think the biggest thing is just, you know, they're in the right spot more now than they were, and they understand the defense, and they're starting to execute it really well. And you can tell the guys are playing fast and they're comfortable, and I think that's the biggest difference.
Andrew Coker didn't play. His streak is
Yeah.
ended. How did he handle that?
Yeah, I think he was disappointed. You know, he was just so banged up. I think you know, he practiced today, and so I think there's a good chance we'll see him on Friday. You know, I'm hoping that we can, and he can have an opportunity to play. I think the biggest thing I told Andrew is, look, I don't want to put you out there if you're not healthy, and he wants to play, and he wants to you know, to be a great teammate for his guys, and support this football team, and you know, the offense and the offensive line. So I anticipate seeing him Friday, and hopefully he'll play well.
How did you feel like that Mike Nichols played? Looked like the 2 big.
You know, I thought Mike
plays.
did good. I thought Mike took a step in the right direction for sure. I'm excited. You know, the more Mike plays, the better Mike gets, and I think he, you know, I think he continues to improve. And I think Mike's got a lot of potential, a lot of upside. You know, I think he gets more and more consistent all the time.
Coach, you talked about the offensive line after the game, and obviously inconsistencies. Is there any particular thing that's sticking out about the inconsistencies? Why that's not successful in the run game?
I mean, look, I think number one, I think that it's like I talked about. I mean, look, there's 2 kind of things that happen in the game. Number one, I thought we pass protected incredibly well. You know what I mean? I think we dropped back and threw the ball, you know, a number of times. You know, Josh pretty much was clean. And, you know, saw some different looks and some stuff that was different. Guys adapted and picked it up well, and I thought we did a good job of not letting any free hitters run to Josh. So I think that was the big thing. I thought our pass protection was really, really good. You go back and you look at the second half of the Texas game, I think you could say the same thing. The pass protection was really, really good. And we ran the ball really good in the second half of the Texas game. I think in this week, didn't run it as well as we should have. Some of the things, again, schematically were some things that Baylor did. I mean, they played their tackles head up, tried to prevent double teams, you know, which, again, that's helps you in the run game, probably hurts your ability to rush the passer. And so it's like anything else, you're kind of paying Peter to pay Paul, or should be robbing Peter to pay Paul, but that's kind of what coaches do. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do sometimes when we have schemes. We all want to have a lineman that you can stick over the top of an offensive lineman and can dominate, can you know, hold up against the run and the pass. There's just not many guys that can do that. So We've had kind of a lot of shuffling around on the offensive line this year in terms of who starts and where guys played, and I don't think that any of us are satisfied with where we are. But again, I do think that there has been, some moments where we really played well, but there's been some inconsistent moments as well, and I think those are things we've got to improve on. And I think that's always comes down to fundamentals, and we've got to continue to develop our guys fundamentally. We've got to continue to build depth with that group from a recruiting and development standpoint. Got to continue to play with an edge, play physical, play tough, play to that standard of being a tough unit. I think at the end of the day, what makes an offensive line really good is that those guys are to play together is five, which that takes time, but that they play with a physical, tough mentality week after week after week, and that's what you want to achieve, and the great offensive lines do that.
Obviously, you guys went on Friday, reached a bowl game. I think you get 15 bowl practices.
Yeah, big deal. Yeah. If we were able to win on Friday, which I think our guys are going to play their tail off, I think our guys, it's going to be really important to them to win. But I think we'll be so excited to get to practice, we'll probably stop at a roadside deal and practice maybe on the way home after the game on Friday. I think the guys, they want to get to a bowl game. I think the guys on this team like this team. I think the guys on this team are frustrated that we're in this position now. I think they feel the same way I do, that we want more games because we want a chance to prove ourselves. Because we have not played to the level that we think we're capable of playing at, and that's, we want to make sure we do that on Friday and get to keep playing.
Last year, Oklahoma gave up a bunch of big plays.
Yeah.
They're better at it.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
What changed?
Yeah, big thing is, again, I think understanding the scheme better. I think that's the biggest thing. Just being in the right place defensively limits big plays, and I think their communication's better. Like I said, there's just more certainty, I think, defensively than there was last year. And, they were learning a new scheme, and that's part of what happens sometimes when you're learning. And, Oklahoma does a lot of things on defense. They do a nice job. You're going to see a lot of different looks, a lot of different coverages, a lot of different unique looks, and I'm sure it takes a while to learn the scheme. And they're so much further along this year than they were last year.
Can you just touch on Danny Stutzman? That'd be a tough matchup.
Yeah. Big and physical and athletic and plays with an edge. That's what I like about him. There's lots of good athletes out there and big guys, but I love the way he plays. You can tell it's really important to him. He's got a lot of pride in his performance and the way he hustles and the physical nature that he plays with, and just all the stuff. He's kind of a throwback linebacker in a lot of ways, and it's fun to watch him play. I enjoy turning the tape on and watching him.
You hate to see the series end?
I do. Yeah, I do. It's interesting. All this stuff. I grew up watching Colorado and Nebraska play on Thanksgiving, back in the old days when they were in the Big Eight, and Oklahoma State and Oklahoma playing Bedlam, on Saturday after Thanksgiving. And, it's just kind of the way it used to be. Obviously in our state, it was Texas and Texas A&M on Thanksgiving Day for a long time, or on the day after Thanksgiving Day. And so it's just, a lot of those things kind of have gone away, and I suppose they say that's progress. I don't know if I completely agree with it, but that's what they say.
Coach, there's maybe more parity this year in the Big 12 than last year. You guys yourselves are 4 possessions from being 9-2.
Yeah, we are.
Can you just,
thanks for reminding me.
can you talk about that, how this league is? Here we are the last week of the season.
It's obvious. Look, it's, these games come down to little bitty things, and we were a great team last year of little bitty things, and we have not been a good team this year of little bitty things. And so that's kind of the difference between winning and losing. It's a turnover here, it's a big play there, it's a penalty here, it's a missed red zone opportunity there. It's just all these things. And again, for us, it's turnovers. We've said the stat over and over, we're 17-1 when we're even to win the turnover battle in 2 years. So ain't real smart, but we got to win the turnover battle. And that's been the big thing for us. And we lost it on Saturday, but somehow we were able to overcome that. And we've got to take care of the ball. We happened to turn it over at the 2-yard line last week, which was kind of our Achilles heel. Not only was it a turnover, it was a missed red zone opportunity, and those two things have been significant, this year for us. Again, you go back to Colorado, week 1, we threw 2 picks in the end zone, and that's just kind of been what we've done this year. And again, that's always comes down to, we have to coach better. You know what I mean? We have to do a better job of coaching, and it starts with me. And if you're not creating turnovers, you got to figure out a way to create them. And if you're turning it over too much, you got to figure out a way to stop turning it over. And if you're bad in red zone offense, you got to figure out how to get better in red zone offense. And those are just all things that we have to do moving forward. And I think that's what we have to do on Saturday to give ourselves a chance to win.
We'll go 2 more questions if you have them.
Coach, I've been able to see Nook's game change over the years from high school till now. Can you talk about what you've seen out of him since arriving at
Yeah,
TCU?
it's been fun to watch Nook. I mean, he got here last year, and he's grown up. You know what I mean? I think that's the cool thing. Just in the 2 years I've been around him, he just is a different person. You know what I mean? He's just got a lot of confidence, a lot of belief in his ability. He's a playmaker. He's one of those guys that he's around the football. He's got a little bit of a sixth sense of knowing where things are and how things are unfolding. I think that's really, really important for that position, because really, people used to talk about the quarterback of the defense used to be the middle linebacker. I think in today's world, your quarterback of the defense is really your safeties, just because they have to be able to play, run, and they got to be able to play pass. And they're involved in run fits, but they also got to be involved heavily in coverage, clearly. And so it's a tough position to play. There's a lot of stress on safeties, and I think Nook is playing well because he's got confidence and he can diagnose what's happening, and he diagnoses it, I think, more quickly than he used to. And I think, again, that comes from experience and confidence and hard work, and really like the way he's playing, and he's been a good player for us.
Final question? Thanks, Coach.